So just a couple quick guidelines. So if you wouldn't mind muting yourself so we don't have any distracting background noise. If you're able to turn on your video, we'd love to be able to see the faces of the people that we're presenting to, but that's okay if you don't have video capabilities. That's quite okay. We will have time to answer questions at the end. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and put those in the chat and we can stop at the end. And we should have time to answer any of those questions as well. So best way to view this presentation is the side-by-side mode. So if you go to the top right-hand corner, go to View Options, click Side-by-Side. That way you can see the presentation as well as the person that is presenting. Everything that is said in this presentation is confidential. We are recording this because we are going to be putting this on our video platforms afterwards, but we'll kind of cut out the end of the question answer. So you don't have to worry about that being placed on the video platform after. And obviously, we really thank Cheryl for having us here today. So a few things about the People's Resource Center. If you're unfamiliar with what we do, we offer services free of charge to DuPage County residents. We have a lot of different types of services that we offer. We have our food pantry running out of our Wheaton and Westmont locations multiple times per week. We do a curbside pickup model where you just pull your car in, we bring the food out to you, put it in your trunk, and you're on your way. So there's no contact and it's very safe. We have our empowerment services. Everything is virtual right now. We started going back to an in-person, where we're slowly getting back to in-person, and now we've kind of resorted back to virtual until this Omicron wave passes. But we have our adult learning and literacy program, our art studio, our computer training and access, and our job assistance program. We also have our social services program, which is in person by appointment only. I'd like to point out the computer training and access program as a supplement to our job assistance program. So if you're in need of a desktop, we do refurbish desktops and hand them out to PRC clients. And we also have a lot of great computer training programs. We do have a Microsoft Office certification program, which is a great supplement. It's self-paced, and we also do have some virtual classes. But at the end, you do get you take a test, you get your Microsoft Office certification. It's something really great to put on your resume to make you stand out. And then our job assistance program, we offer a couple different job assistance services. So we have our one-to-one job coaching. So Charles is one of our presenters today. He's one of our awesome job coaches. They can help you with anything from interviewing, searching for a job, making sure that you're job ready, help you boost your confidence in the interview. It's individualized, so it's whatever you need help in is what our job coaches can help you with. We also have a great resume writing team that can help you create a resume from scratch or just update an old resume if you just have something that needs to be updated and refreshed. We also have an online job board, so I connect with employers throughout DuPage County. They send me their open positions, which I post on the job board. So all of our clients have direct access to our online job board as well. We have a couple other services we actually will talk about in this training, and some of the things that we offer through PRC. So. And we'll talk at the end if you're interested in learning more about PRC and becoming a client. We'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. So today we're going to talk about sort of the start of your job search, so helping you decide whether or not you're job ready. So we're going to talk about a couple different things today in today's presentation, but really when you're starting off and really trying to decide if you're ready to start searching for a job, you need to do a self-assessment. You need to identify your skills and accomplishments, so not just your job duties. So we'll talk a little bit about that today. Deciding which of your skills matches to the job description that you're interested in. And also prepping your social media and your search. So, how are you going to go about, finding a job, especially in the age of the internet? Target the job market. So find the specific jobs that are a good match for your skills and accomplishments. And then finally putting it all together and help you get to that next step, which is going to be the interview. And we'll touch base a little bit about that today as well. But we also have a lot of really great workshops at PRC that cover. This is a very broad topic, but we have a lot of workshops that cover some of the basics. So if you're really interested in, getting a LinkedIn profile, we have a whole workshop that covers LinkedIn. We also have a great workshop that Charles usually does about being successful in the interview. So job hunting in the digital age. So A lot has changed over the past 10 years when it comes to applying for a job. Most of people applying for jobs is done online now. I think gone are the days when you can just walk into a company and hand them your resume and you get an interview on the spot. Most of everything is done online, and a lot of companies have these applicant tracking systems that help them keep track of all the resumes that they're getting. So the good news is, being able to apply for jobs online, it's really easy to do. It's really easy to find jobs. There's lots of online job boards like Indeed, LinkedIn even has their own job board. So it's really easy to find jobs, and it's really fast and easy to apply. You can just, a lot of times there'll be an email address, or there'll be like an applicant tracking system that you can just put all your information in, upload your resume, and apply for a job that way. So they do try to make it user friendly, and it saves time. However, the not so good news is everybody else has the same access to the same information you do when it comes to applying for jobs. So what that means is that, especially now, everybody's looking for jobs. I think, what was it, last month, 2.1 million people quit their jobs in the United States. And so it's just been record after record each month of people leaving the workforce or leaving their jobs and trying to find new jobs. So there's a lot of competition out there. And so there's a lot of people looking for the same jobs that you're doing. And so what that means is that, not only are, you looking for a job, so is everybody else. And so what that means is, and I think I wouldn't even be surprised if this statistic is more now, but the average corporate job posting receives over 250 applicants. So that's a lot for people to sort through, for hiring managers to sort through when it comes to trying to find a qualified person for their job. So you really need to make sure, when you're deciding if you're job ready, to make sure that that you're applying for jobs that you're going to be a good fit for, because you don't want to waste your time applying for jobs that you're not going to be a good fit for, because if it takes you 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes to apply for a job, you don't want to waste your time. You really want to make sure that you're applying for a job that you have the potential of getting a callback for. So we're going to start off with the self-assessment. So you really need to sit by and say, what do you want to do? What are you qualified to do? What experience do you have? Is it direct experience, or is it something that can be transferred? So a lot of those soft skills can be transferred over to a new job, especially if you're looking to change careers. We actually do another great workshop. I did it actually this past Saturday on changing your careers. And we talk a lot about, a lot of people have, hard skills. So like, being experts in certain computer programs or certain software dedicated to a particular company, but it's a lot of those soft skills that are very transferable. So, being able to work together as a team, being able to work well with clients, or just those personality traits, being punctual, being a good manager. So a lot of those skills can be transferred over to new jobs. So that's a good thing to start taking inventory in, is like, what are those soft skills that you have that can be transferred over to other jobs? What are your accomplishments? So we'll talk a little bit about that later. What are some of the things that you've accomplished in your job? Have you won any awards? Or, is there an employee of the month? Those are things that you want to start taking inventory. So how to sell and promote yourself when you get into that first round of the interview. What are your education and credentials? So, what degrees do you hold? What certifications do you hold? What professional development have you had? Have you attended any conferences? Have you, done any work retreats where you're, I just got my diversity, equity, and inclusion certificate from University of Southern Florida. So it's always good to be able to talk about, what sort of things, a lot of people put their college degrees on, but a lot of what people are, a lot of what companies are looking for are like those lifelong learners. What things are you doing, while you're working to develop and enhance those skills that you already have? So these are all things that you need to start writing down and thinking about. So, we talked a little bit about, information gathering is being one of the most critical parts of preparing for your job search, because it sets the stage for several important activities. So it's your chance to gather all the personal information, accomplishments, skills, and recognition that uniquely defines you. So don't forget about volunteer work, affiliations, church, or professional organizations that you're a part of. That's also really important. I see a lot of resumes now that are putting, people's volunteer activities. Companies like to see that. Companies like to see that their employees are giving back. And plus, don't take into account, if you're volunteering for something, you're also, gaining a specific skill through that volunteer experience. So don't, don't underestimate that. And if you have space to put that on your resume, you feel like you have some really good, relevant volunteer experiences, that's something for you to put on as well. If information gathering is done well and comprehensive up front, it's going to save you time later. So verbally, it fuels job search activities like attending job fairs and networking. So these are things that you're going to be talking about in your 30-second elevator pitch. We talk about career fairs. We have PRC has a career fair coming up in March, and that's going to be a really good opportunity for people. I think it's a really good opportunity in general, just to get out and meet employers that are hiring face to face and selling yourself up front. I feel like that's a lot better than you're applying for a job that 250 other people are applying for. You're just another resume in a sea of other resumes. And these career fairs give you the opportunity to sell yourself and for people to see the person behind the resume. So it's really critical that you're able to organize all of your thoughts and be able to deliver a powerful elevator pitch. And I think that's what figuring out what your skills and accomplishments for are so vitally important. So how do you set your skills apart from other candidates? So you need to be prepared with a statement and back it up with an example. So we've just given 2 examples here. So we talked a little bit about this at PRC, when I talked about PRC. So I'm proficient in Excel and Word. So you're making a statement, but how can you back up that statement? Well, I received my Microsoft Office certification from PRC. So basically you have some evidence to prove that you are proficient in Microsoft Office and Excel. You'll see that a lot of people, I see this all the time, even in resumes. When I was hiring people at my previous job, I was doing a lot of hiring, and I would see that all the time. Somebody would say, I'm proficient in Microsoft Excel and Word, and then we would hire them and they wouldn't know how to use the program, because you can easily say I'm proficient. But by saying you received a certification sort of backs up. I know that in order to receive that certification, you have to take and pass a test. So that shows to me that you are certified, that you do know what you're talking about when it comes to using that type of software. So think about any certifications that you already have, or even think of if I do want to say I'm proficient in something, can I get a certification to back that up? That's just going to make you a stronger candidate. If you have more certifications to back up those statements. So another one is I've been told I'm a team player. My team of, and this is a way that you could back up that statement. My team of 6 people received the President's Top Department Performance Award in 2019. So that shows that you're working, or you have proven success working on a productive team. So now we're talking a little bit about power statements. So, power statements is kind of, you're talking a little bit more about, kind of what we said with those previous statements, making sure that you're backing up those statements with evidence that's going to be powerful, and convince a hiring manager that you have these skills and experiences, you could potentially be a good fit for this role. So, accomplished number 1, these are just a couple of examples. I received a promotion. I needed to, when you receive a promotion, you're going to be getting more responsibilities, and so how are you going to, increase your knowledge on those new responsibilities? So, this example is, I got this promotion, but I needed to improve my bookkeeping skills. In order to do that, I received my QuickBooks certification. So you had to improve your skills in a certain area, and you did so by, receiving this QuickBooks certification. What does that tell an employer? That shows that you have initiative, you're motivated, and you're adaptable. So, as the needs of the business change, you're willing to get the training or the certifications you need to match the needs of the business. So another example, the company was updating its processes. So in order for me to meet the need of the company, I took Excel and Word classes at PRC at night. So I became proficient in Microsoft Excel and Word. So what does that show the employer? That shows that you have personal drive to learn new things. It shows that you're teachable. It shows that you're not set in your own ways. You're willing to learn new things, and become proficient in them. A lot of times, people get set on doing something a certain way, and then the business switches computer systems or software, and you have to learn something new, and that's not easy for a lot of people. Some people don't like to learn new things. So by saying that you're adaptable, teachable, and willing to commit to the new process, that shows that you're malleable, and a lot of employers are looking for people like that. So another example, my role as a receptionist expanded to include filling in for other departments when needed. What does that show an employer? It shows that you have the ability to work with others, that you're a good team player, you're flexible, and you're organized, and you can do multiple tasks at once. Those are all soft skills that employers are really looking for. So this is just a couple examples of skills and traits that you can use in your cover letter, in your resume, in your 30-second elevator pitch. These are I think, say like power statements, but power words. Things that employers like to hear when it comes to you describing yourself and what you can bring to the company. So and Cheryl, I can maybe even send this out to you afterwards if you want to send it to the people that that registered. I think it's good to have like a list of words as people are kind of working on developing their power statements and their cover letter. It's good to have these words, so I can send this out in the PDF afterwards.
Perfect.
So we talk a little bit now about this is something that PRC offers. It's the KX Skills Assessment Test by Talent Central, and I think IBM owns them. I feel like it's changed hands like 3 different times, but I think it's an IBM tool now. But this is a really great. It's a really great program. It's basically an assessment tool that I think there's something like 900 and some change different assessments that you can take to assess your skills in a variety of different things. So I think they have one on like Microsoft Office. They have all sorts of business software that a lot of companies use. There's tests that can assess your skills in that. And then there's very basic tests, like if you want to assess your skills at like customer service or listening, or even if you want to get something much more specific, they even have, like if somebody wants to be a 911 operator, there's an assessment that you can take to assess your skills and whether or not you'd be successful in that type of job. So there's literally assessments for everything. And this is a pretty reputable company. So when you receive your score from that, if you get a high score, it's something that you can put on your resume or something that you can talk about in your cover letter that you scored really high on this the KX assessment for customer service or Microsoft Office. So it's a really great tool. It's something that we offer our clients at PRC for free. So if you become a client, this is something that you'd be able to get access to. But even if you don't want to use this tool in particular, there's a lot of other great similar tools that you can use online. I think that LinkedIn has some certifications or some assessment tools. I know Indeed does. Indeed has different tests. And if you apply for a job, sometimes I'm seeing this now, there are companies that after you apply, the company actually has their own assessment that they will send you that you can take to in order to determine if you're going to be a good fit for that position. So, but this is a good way to prepare so you can determine whether or not you're ready to apply for this type of role. Because if you want to be in, if you want to go into a job that requires you to use QuickBooks or Microsoft Office, and you take the assessment first and you score really low, then hey, I really need to beef up my skills in that before I can say that I'm proficient in Microsoft Office. So, and these are just some other different examples of different types of assessments that Talent Central has. So. Want to talk a little bit about matching skills to job requirements, and I think this is really critical when you're applying for jobs, especially when you're applying for jobs that you're applying for a job through an applicant tracking system. So if you're unfamiliar with what an applicant tracking system does, if you apply for a job through the applicant tracking system, what that computer program does is it looks at your resume and cover letter, and it matches the keywords to the job description to what's on your resume and cover letter. And if you don't have enough keywords or matching job descriptions, or if you don't have the right education that's in the job description, the computer software doesn't even send your resume over as a qualified candidate. So it's really critical. And I think it Charles, I don't know if what the example, but it's something like 85 or 90% of companies use applicant tracking system now. So it's very common. But it's also really critical when you're applying for jobs that you make sure that what's in your resume or your cover letter is going to match what's in the job description, because that's what people are looking for. So that's why it's so critical to match those skills to the job requirements. We're going to talk a little bit about how you can do that really easily. So this is just kind of an example of one way that you can do it. So if you look at a job description, there's going to be employer skills and requirements, things that the job candidate is going to need in order to be successful in this role. So these are a couple different examples. I know it sounds like a broken record. We talked about, must be proficient at using Microsoft Office. So you want to make sure that either in your resume or your cover letter, you're talking about that. So you're saying, I'm proficient in Microsoft Office. I use the Microsoft Office applications to create PowerPoint presentations, to document marketing materials in Word, and computer data in Excel. So you want to talk about why you're proficient in Microsoft Office, and make sure to mention that so you know that you meet the requirement of that job description. Strong organization and prioritization skills. I managed a team of 3 interns, and all deadlines were met on time and within budget. It shows that you meet that particular skill in the job requirement. I have 2 to 5 years prior experience in a similar role, preferably at a software company. You can mention 4 years combined experience in marketing roles within various software companies. So most of the time, employers don't have a huge laundry list of skills and requirements, and especially now, I'm starting to see a trend where employers don't necessarily rely so much on like education and experience. I'm sorry, they're not necessarily relying on education. They're more looking at experience, which I think is really good. So, you're not necessarily going to see, an employer list 50 things on, skills and requirements to be successful in the role. They'll just give, maybe a very generalized description. And so that's going to be easier for you to kind of pinpoint what specific things you need to target on your resume and cover letter. So it's always a good idea to have your resume and cover letter, in Word form, so it's something that you could easily edit to better match the job description. And I say edit, we don't want you to lie, obviously, but a lot of times you might have to maybe tweak it a little bit so you can match some of the wording in the job description. So there's a great tool online that's free that you can use to assist you. It's called TagCrowd. And so basically what it does is you can copy and paste the job description, and then you can copy and paste your resume or cover letter into this. It's basically just like a simple like document. You can just copy and paste everything, and then you can hit you hit like complete, and then what TagCrowd does is it comes back to you and it highlights all of the keywords in the job description. So for example, like if they use like team building, or if they use managerial skills or something, if they use that multiple times in the job description, it's going to come back in like it's going to be a much bigger word. So it's just going to target all the keywords, and how big the word is how important that seems to be in the job description. So how many times it's mentioned in the job description. So it's a good idea. So if you see, the words that are being used in the job description, if that's emphasized a lot, that's something that you want to make sure is in your resume or cover letter, because that means that those job descriptions or those words are very important to the employer. So this is just an example of what that looks like when you're pasting your text or uploading your resume. That's the text that they're going to use to figure out what are the main keywords. And this is an example. I always get ahead of myself when I talk, but this is an example of so you can see like in the job description, administrative, that's that big word. So that's what was mentioned multiple times in the job description. So obviously this employer is looking for somebody that has really strong administrative skills. So that's going to be something that you're going to want to target in your resume and cover letter to make sure that you emphasize that you have those specific skills, and back those up with certain statements to showcase, to basically show that you do have those particular skills. Student is another one. So, you might want to mention, if it's, I don't know what this particular job description is, but if it's something where you're working with college students, or you're working with high school students, you might want to mention any experience that you have, working with people in that population. So it's a really useful tool, and it is free of charge. And there's a couple other ones out there. I think there's a program called JobScan that does something similar. So there's a lot of tools that you can use on the internet to really kind of make this process a lot easier than what it has been. So I think, I think with that, I'll turn it over to Charles.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Paul. What Paul was telling you about matching, it is true. However, I'll give you this caveat. I recently had a client that I spoke with, and they said, I'm having a terrible time applying for anything. And I said, why is that? Well, I don't match. I says, match what? I don't match 100%. I will tell you, you don't need to match 100% on these job descriptions. The requirements that the employer puts out there on their job description, what they're looking for, and this may not sound right to you, but it's really an employer's wish list. I wish that this person with all these soft skills, all these hard skills would come along and apply, and I can hire them, and then I can move on to do something else. Very few people will match exactly what the employer is looking for. Should you have the majority of things in there? Sure. Should you have particularly if it's a hard skill, let's say you were a nurse and it's a nursing position and they need an RN. Well, if you don't have that education, that certification, don't apply. Those are very definite things. But in general, don't get too worried if you don't match 100% on these job descriptions. Go ahead and apply. The worst that can happen to you is the ATS, which is that applicant tracking system. Choose it up and you don't get a response, but that's the worst thing. Don't limit yourself on applying. And I'll move on to the ATS, which again, just briefly, the ATS looks at your resume, puts it through a scanner type of thing, the computer program, and it looks for those matching words, as we said. Some things that you can't have in your resume are fancy fonts, fancy curly Q letters, cursive letters, all kind of things like that. Basically, it's got to be a simple, and I won't say the word, it's got to be a simple, plain resume without lines, without with simple things, basically. And our resume writers over at PRC, we go through this and make sure that everything that's needed is going to be there. Just a simple thing. I'll throw out the dates for you. A lot of resumes initially, they come in and out, and they'll have January. I worked at this position from January 2016 until April 2019, and they spell out January and April. That's not going to work. To get through this ATS, it's got to be the simple format of 01/2016-05/2019, that kind of thing. So you want to look into this ATS. You can certainly do it online. You can do it through our job coaching program, but it's important because the greatest resume with all the great skills, if you put the wrong things in there, like the dates, you're not going to get through and you're not going to hear back from these companies. And keywords, we've spoke quite a bit about that. So let's move on to the next page. All right. I'm going to tell you that your resume is a sales presentation. Your interview is a sales presentation. Your resume is your written presentation. Your interview is your oral sales. And I use that word. I was in sales, so I happen to like sales, is your oral sales presentation. And an interview is really where you make it or break it. You do a good job on your resume, it gets through the ATS, and you get a phone call, and they're going to do a phone interview or a Zoom interview in the format we're in right now, or not too unusual today is come on in and let's have an in-person interview. So what do you want at your interview? You want to stand out. Let's say they have 10 people they're interviewing. You want to stand out. How do you do that? You need to make sure that you have this basic information. What makes you uniquely qualified for the job? Certification, stable, and it's going to be different for everybody. Dependable, unique approach. Elevator speech. Elevator speech is that introductory question. Paul, Cheryl, would you tell me a little bit about yourself before we get going with this interview? And that's really where you kind of highlight, why am I here? Because I feel I can be an asset to your company with my 10 years of experience in this particular area. If you can throw an accomplishment in there in the 30, 45 seconds, that's great too. So that's something you really want to get down. If you blow it on that, on the tell me about yourself, and you start talking about your Aunt Betty's apple pie, this isn't going to get you where you want to go. And I do believe in stories. If you can have some stories to go along with your accomplishments, have those stories ready. And for example, here's somebody on number 3, why you're looking for a new opportunity. And this is a story. I've been working for my current family, probably, I'm not sure, maybe a nanny type position, current family for 7 years. I love children, enjoy family, blah, blah, blah. You can see what that is. That's a story. People like stories. It's better than just stating facts, and facts are important, but if you can weave facts into a story, and I will tell you this from my sales background, storytelling was my thing. So it really does work, stories. A closing statement, you have to have this ready. You have to be at the end of the interview, you make it through, you do well with the typical interview questions. You have to be ready with it, something to leave with the interviewer. And here's one, Ms. Jones, thank you for considering me for the position. I'm not only interested, think I'm a great fit. Very important. And it'll come up later in this little workshop here, but enthusiasm. If you can see this person is very enthusiastic, I think I'm a great fit. I realize you're considering other candidates, but here's what I want you to remember about me to make me uniquely qualified. And again, it could be, I have 20 years, I have 10 years. Experience is very powerful, and Paul is right. Some degrees are not as important as your experience, okay? So don't get hung up on, well, I have a 2-year COD degree, I don't have a 4-year degree, a bachelor's. Don't get hung up on that. If you have experience, talk to your job coach. You can, many times these people will be hired. Next slide. All right, targeting the job market. How do you go about targeting the job market? Well, if you know actual employers that you'd like to work for, if it's like, gee, I've really enjoyed shopping at Macy's. If you wanted a retail thing, like, okay, put them on your target list. Search all worthwhile employers. That you can do pretty easily on the internet, as we all know. And you don't want to, the number four, personal job market big enough. If you have something really very specific, it might be hard. For example, if you like jewelry and you say, well, I'd like to be a jewelry person or a gemologist, whatever that goes along with jewelry, that might be narrow. You might have to broaden it out. If you do a job search and nothing comes back, broaden it out, go a little broader, and then you might be able to narrow it back down, but broaden it out a little bit. Proactive just means you're not waiting for employers to email you. You are going out there and doing what needs to get done to knock on doors, okay, through the computer today, not physically as we spoke, but you're proactive about it. You're getting out there and doing what needs to be done. What organization, again, do you want to work for? If there's an organization, you say, well, I'd love to work for PRC. I really enjoyed the help they gave me. Wonderful. Look into what that organization has in job opportunities. Geographic location, is it something we're assuming that it's not a totally remote position, that you can do a commute? It's a reasonable thing for you, even in the wintertime with snow out there like we have on the ground today. Next slide, Paul. Okay, we repeat the word research, research, research because it's very, very true. You want to know, is this an industry that's growing or is it shrinking? Job outlooks. When I was much younger, there telephone operators that were in existence. You won't find that in your job search today. So go with something that there's a good outlook. You can do get Outlook information through IDES. You can get it through a resource called onetonline.org, which is a government website that can give you job outlooks. Now, I have clients that have applied for jobs and I've asked them, what does the company do? They don't know. So I'm thinking like, okay, if Paul applied for a position and I asked him, he applied at ABC company, and he doesn't know what ABC does. Well, if a recruiter calls up Paul and says, okay, Paul, you applied for a position with our company. Do you know, can you tell us, how do you fit into our organization? And Paul has no idea what they do. It's not going to go well. So look into what they do, look into their mission, their culture, news articles. Very easy to do a Google search on a company, about us, mission, values, and you might find something that really rings a bell with you. For example, because this is a PRC thing, let's say I wanted to work at PRC and I read up on PRC and I find out that, oh, one of their major supporters is Lucent Technologies or one of these big technology companies, and I applied there. I would certainly use that and say, I was impressed that you support PRC. So look into that type of thing. Keywords, that we're not going to be repetitive, but that's from the job description. Kind of look at that and see how you match up with that. Employer websites, just a suggestion for you. If you're going to apply and you find the job on Indeed or any other of these aggregator, ZipRecruiter, any of these, and you know the company, it's a disclosed, not a confidential thing where you don't know where you're applying, go to the company website, learn something about them. And I would recommend applying on the company website. It actually is a preferable thing to do. If you want to research salary information, you can do that on Glassdoor, salary.com. Those are some sites. ONET Online, there's the one that I just told you about, ONET Online. Down at the bottom in blue, that's a U.S. Department of Bureau of Labor Statistics website, free. Don't need to register, don't need passwords to remember. It's a good site to use. Next. All right, the IDES is not only the Illinois Department of Employment Security that sends out the unemployment compensation checks. They have a pretty good website with a lot of information, and that's, so you might want to look at that. Here's an example, just an opening page. I can't read exactly what's on there, so let's go to the next page. All right, IDES is one. My next move is actually, again, part of that Bureau of Labor Statistics, federal government website. If you don't know what you want to do, you might want to go to this site, mynextmove.org. Again, that's a good, safe website. And you can do a search. You know what your skills are. And sometimes you need to think about this to really remember, what did you do? What did you, well, I worked at a small company and I trained new people. Okay, well, that's a skill you had. You manage people. So you might want to do a skill search based on some of your skills, based on the fact you're great with Microsoft Excel. Do go to this site. There's also a little self-assessment you can do through this site that will maybe give you some insight into what you might enjoy. You should, by the way, the best employees are those that really enjoy their job, and employers know this. And it's not only is it good for the employer, it's good for you. Enjoying what you do, it makes life much better. Next. Okay, here's something that sounds intimidating, particularly today, networking. Networking is really very, very critical. A lot of high percentage, 75, 80% of jobs are actually filled through networking. Now, what can that be? That can be networking where the company sends information to all the current employees. We have an opening in our communications department. If you know somebody, please let us know. And you have a friend that let you know a month ago that, gee, I have this communications degree and your company sounds like a great company. If anything becomes available, let me know. There's a match that could be made in heaven, and that person may end up getting the job. So that's the type of networking where we're talking about, and employers like that because a recommendation from a current employee is really it's really a very good thing. And who do you connect up with? Actually, anybody. But this little slide says friends, family, past co-workers, neighbors. Yeah, there's no limit. Could be people from your church, your volunteer organizations, your library, you anywhere. So anybody and everywhere is good if you can network with them. And that doesn't mean going up and saying, Cheryl, I'd like a job here at the library. That's probably not going to fly. You've never met Cheryl before. It's not going to go down too well. If you knew, really what goes down better is if you start a conversation and ask your neighbor, Paul, what do you do? I see you leave for work and blah, blah, blah. Oh, I work at PRC. And Paul tells you some interesting things about PRC. At that point, you say, gee, that could be of interest. I'm in a job transition right now. I've done this for 20 years and I'm ready to make a career change. That'll go down a lot better. That's the type of networking we're speaking about here. You can also network on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a wonderful resource with more people than I could count to. They have 900 million people signed up on LinkedIn. So there's probably some networking you could do. Follow companies, follow people, recommend people you might know through LinkedIn. Look into the LinkedIn thing. It's really very, very good. Target Job has a professional group. If you, whatever it is, if it's medical related, I guarantee you there's groups. If it's insurance related, there's groups. If it's real estate, anything, electrical engineers, plumbers, everybody has a group out there. Look into that. And that's about it. Let's go to the next slide. And a little more follow-up on digital networking. You can use LinkedIn, you can use, well, social media, that's LinkedIn, Facebook, all the other companies that have platforms that allow you to network with other people. You do it, yes, you do it informally every day. You have to become a little more aware if you're trying to obtain a job and be a little more focused possibly. Next. All right, social media, this is important. 45% of employers admit, and I think it's more, to do a simple thing. You have you own a company and somebody applies, you're in HR, you do an interview and they put your social media in and they go to Facebook, for example, and something comes up really objectionable, that's not going to go any further, that hiring process. Very easy to do. It's a free thing, obviously. So know what's on your social sites, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, all of these. Clean it up before you start applying for positions. Afterwards, once it's out there, it's too late. And let's see what recruiters are a good thing. Actually, they're hired by companies to hire people. So if you get a call from a recruiter or an email more likely, or an email from a recruiter through LinkedIn, that's a good thing. And on your information, post content relevant to the industry you want to join on LinkedIn. That's very important that you have information pertaining to the field you want to go into naturally. Highlight things like your leadership, volunteer work. Yes, it is important. You can say, well, I I did this volunteer thing for my church. You put it down. Talk with your job coach. Probably there are things that you learn, people you work with, skills that you develop through that. Let's move on to the next page. And that's pretty much what I just told you. Clean up your social media. 1 in 3, here's a little fact. 1 in 3 employers have rejected candidates based on something they found out about them online. So be careful with that social media thing. And most of you know, you can put your own name in there and you can do a Google search, see what pops up. Photos, take down ones that, might not be certainly appropriate. Status and comments, you got to be careful. When this digital world, things can come back to haunt you, as we know from always something coming up that this person posted this thing 10 years ago and it's costing them their job today. So be aware of that it's very important. Status, comments, just be aware. Next. LinkedIn. All right. Well, this slide says 610 million members. Actually, I just heard it is over 900 million worldwide. A lot of people. Use it by all means. If you can attend our LinkedIn workshop, do that. LinkedIn has things that they will help teach you also online. And I don't care how young or old you are, what your experience is. If you're in the job market, you definitely should be on LinkedIn. Learn about it, use it. Companies use it. 77% of recruiters, very important. Recruiter will put in, well, I'm looking for somebody in this customer service for this customer service specialty, and you happen to have that and you're on LinkedIn, you will come up. And that recruiter might call you, might email you for an interview or further information. So use it. Companies use it. Recruiters use it. 27% of Americans, probably higher than that. So look into this LinkedIn. A lot of good resources and different things you can that you can do on the LinkedIn. And it's not all that hard to use. It's kind of like directive, tells you how to get a good LinkedIn page going. Next. All right, LinkedIn, more on LinkedIn. Why do people do it? To promote themselves through an online profile. It's an excellent site. Network with other professionals, share content, and to find a job. Most of the people on LinkedIn probably are not actively looking for a job, but they have their information out there. And let's say I was on LinkedIn and I'm not looking for a job, and I get an email from an employer, a recruiter that's have a little online conversation, and they offer me twice what I'm making at my current job. Well, guess what? I'm moving for twice the pay. So that's why people have even though they're not looking for a job, they still are out there on LinkedIn. It might lead to a much better position for them. It's not unusual at all. Next. All right, LinkedIn, I think you're getting the idea. It's pretty important. It really is. 15% of available jobs are ever advertised. You go on Indeed and you think, oh, they've got every job in the world. No, they don't. 15, 20% on a good day. A lot of jobs are really found through networking. So don't discount it at all. Don't discount LinkedIn and say, oh, it's too hard to use, or, I don't know if I can navigate my way through it. Learn it. Not all that difficult, and it is very important. Next. All right. A job search is not I won't say it's like a day, a day at the county fair, not something that you say, I really am looking forward to doing this job search. No, you might apply for 20 jobs and you might not get any response. Maybe it's because your resume was not applicant tracking system ready to go. Maybe you didn't have the skills. You don't know, but you apply for 20 things and you get nothing, or you get one and it turns into a nothing. It can be depressing. It can be a downer, really. So what do you have to do? you have to remember that you're working towards a goal, and your goal is a job, a career. Let's talk a career. You're looking for a career that you're going to enjoy. That's important. That is financially appropriate for your skills, your experience, and what you need. That it really checks all the boxes for you. That's the prize. That's really what we're talking about. So keep in mind what your goal is. Michael Jordan, for example, I read this the other day. 9,000 times he threw for the basket, didn't score. And many times at the end of the game, he had the ball, and the Bulls would have won if he got that score, got the basket. Didn't happen. He failed probably more than he got in the basket, more tries than actually happened. You've got to just keep trying, honestly, and remember that every no brings you closer to a yes. I learned that in sales, and it's true, because this is, again, sales, your resume, and your presentation, and your research and applying for jobs. No's are not a bad thing. It gets you closer to a yes. Stay positive. Stay around people that are positive. The people that tell you, you're wasting your time, you don't blah, blah, blah. Negative people, no, you don't want them in your job during your job search. They're not going to help you. Take action, be proactive, as we'd mentioned before. Cheerleaders, I jumped the gun. I already told you about cheerleaders, positive people. Next. All right, are you ready? This is a little recap. Have you done a self-assessment to understand your skills? Paul discussed that, and that's really saying, what are my skills? What are my hard skills? My hard skills are your educational, your technical skills, your computer skills, that type of thing. Your soft skills are your people skills, that you have empathy, you can understand, you're a good listener. There's a whole long list of soft skills out there, and soft skills are very, very important today, and always have been. So understand what your skills are, and accomplishments. You have to think back sometimes, and it's like, oh, gee, that was in 2005. How am I going to remember what I did over at that company in 2005 or 2015? Take some quiet time and really give it some thought. And remember, the manager used to ask me to train new people because I was the best one doing that certain function. So I was the trainer. Think about things like that. Take a look at your skills. Did they match? We discussed that enough. Understand social media. Yeah, we kind of drove home. LinkedIn is an important thing, and social media is important for you to look at what's on your social media. Targeted and researched your job market. Targeted, that means you're not just saying, yep, I want a job, I don't care what it is. It's like, no, I've narrowed it down. This is what I would like to do. Here's where I would like to do it. Do I have the skills? You might want to do it. I would, maybe I'd want to be an astronaut. Do I have any skills that would qualify me? No, NASA is not ever going to hire me, and I know that. So I would be wasting my time if I targeted NASA. Think about, things like that. Updated and relevant resume. Your resume from 10 years ago isn't going to work today. It may look great, may have your picture on it. You may think like, gee, I was really photogenic in this picture. Great resume, not going to work today. Next. And again, we have a little quiz. If you want to take that, you can do that. And Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, if they call and leave on 333, you will email them this quiz?
Yeah, so if they call, we can email them that.
Okay.
And I can even send it to Cheryl that she can pass. I think we have a Word doc of it, so we can send it to everybody afterwards. Okay.
Yeah, that's good. And there's the application. There's what's covered under it. If it's going to be sent to you, take a look at that and be honest with yourself. Don't kid yourself. Lying to yourself is not a winning strategy. So just go through that quiz and see, am I ready? Maybe you are. Maybe you need some help. Maybe PRC, maybe somebody else can help you. So take an honest look at that self-assessment. Next. And again, PRC, which is People's Resource Center in Wheaton and Westmont. That's on the physical side. But again, we do a lot of things virtually, as Paul told you. I happen to be a job coach. We have probably another 6 or 8 job coaches that work one-on-one with people in the areas they need help with. And it could be any of these, it could be all of them. And if it's all of them, that's fine. If it's one, that's fine too. Applications, interviewing. I tend to spend a lot of time on interviewing because, as I've said before, that's where the rubber meets the road. And that's where a lot of us fall down. We're not good at selling ourselves. We're not good at speaking about ourselves. Maybe we're too humble. Maybe we have a lot of accomplishments, but we don't want to share that with other people. So interviewing is really very, very important. Job searching, readiness, resume, cover letters. We have resume writers that's all they do. They really work with you on your resume and cover letters to make sure they're going to get through this applicant tracking system, which we call the robot thing. Very important. And also, we work with you. Sometimes people will say, I don't have any skills. I don't have any abilities. Sounds terrible, but I have heard that. And people do. Everyone has skills. Everybody has abilities. And we may be able to help you go back in time and realize, yes, I did have this skill. I still have that skill. So that's what job coaching does for people that need help in that area at PRC. Next. There's our website, peoplesrc.org. And Paul, I believe the second item on the drop-down menu from the top is job assistance. Am I right?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, so if you just click on that, you'll end up in that area, and you can find out information about job assistance. You can sign up through you can sign up to get going in the program by phone or on the computer through our website. Next, and there it is. Using the website, here's how to do it. Not too complicated. You can call, as I just said, or go on the computer and click your way through. And my eyes aren't good enough to read what anything says on there, but it's not too hard to do. So either way you want to do it. On the 333, by the way, when you call, nobody will answer that phone, but you leave a message and somebody will contact you to get back to you and to get you going into the program. And it's not a hard thing to do. Next. All right, again, there's our phone number, there's our website. And what else can I tell you? This workshop is it's not going to get you 100% prepared, but it'll show you where maybe you do need to get prepared.